Ladies and gentlemen, the 3 knockdown rule on Triller is in effect. I'm Steve Kim, joined by Maverick Mario Lopez, our Top Gun.
Oh, God. The cheese is so thick, but I love it. I love it. So are you my goose? Would you die? Are you dying on me right here?
Call me Rooster.
Okay, the second coming. Quick shout out, Smoking Tim Frazier, Buffalo Knuckles, and
Tino on the edits. We have so much to talk about. Let's go back this past weekend. Brooklyn, New York at the Barclays Center on Showtime pay-per-view. The Tank eventually steamrolls Rolando Romero, stopping him in 6 rounds. Your scores at the end of the night, by the time the fight was waved off, 49-46, 48-47 for Romero, and 48-47 for the Tank.
I told you, Kimster.
Told me what?
It could be a lot of people thought he was going to go out there and just wash this kid in 1 round. That was the buzz. That Tank was going to be just that, a tank, and too much for Rollie. I never said that I was picking him to win. I just said he could make it interesting, and he did make it interesting. He was actually winning some of those rounds, by the way. He's unorthodox and heavy-handed enough where he's dangerous, and you have to respect him? Pardon me. You have to respect him. So Tank was patient enough to, once he got his timing and once he sort of figured out his little rhythm and he started throwing those sloppy overhand rights, he caught him with that beautiful counter, and that's all she wrote. Now, the controversy that night, which was a lot of people were talking about, was the stoppage. Was the stoppage necessary at that point? Here's the thing. If you have to ask whether it's a bad stoppage, then I think that's your answer. Then it's kind of a bad stoppage. If you really have to ask, look, it's professional boxing. You're paying $75 for pay-per-view. You want to see some violence. Isn't that the whole point of a fight? You got to let the public enjoy a violent highlight knockout once in a while. I don't want anyone to get killed. I sound like which one is it? A masochist? A sadist? Which one is
savage?
Which one is the one that... A sadist? Who hurts themselves? I don't want to be that guy. Is it sadist or a masochist? You know what I'm talking about. Bloodthirsty savage. But in all seriousness, it is boxing. You're paying a lot of money. You want to see a fool get knocked out once in a while. And I think if anyone had his comeuppance and deserved to get knocked out, it was that guy for all the smack he talked. So I was sort of with the chorus that, you know what, maybe a hair longer, they should have let it go. Be that as it may, I don't want to say I'm concerned, but I saw things about Tank. I'm a big Tank fan, and I like it, and I think he's a really good little fighter. But he's been getting touched a lot, Kim. To me, he's a guy who is not as defensive-minded and slick as Canelo, where he can break you down and then catches you counter-wise. He's a guy that takes shots, figures you out, and then catches you counter-wise with a shot because of his power. But you get a guy who can pop a little bit and is not going to be intimidated as he faces the upper echelon of the lightweight division. I don't know if my guy is able to pull a hat out of the bag, a rabbit out of the bag. I'm all messing up all my damn metaphors. You know what I mean? A cat out of the hat. What the hell is it? A rabbit out of the hat. You know what I mean? I don't know if he's able to do that at that high level, though. I like me some Tank. He looked good in that knockout, but Rollie was touching him a lot more than I thought he would. And I don't want to hear when I heard names like Shakur Stevenson and Tank. I think Shakur outboxes this kid, and I think he's in real fights with the upper echelon of the division.
A couple of things. I actually asked on Twitter, did you like the stoppage? I would say, and it was a little bit surprising, overwhelmingly, 80+% of the responses I got thought the stoppage by Dave Fields was proper. With that said, 20 seconds left in the round. You're winning a few rounds. You're in this fight. You haven't taken a beating.
Exactly.
You got to kind of gauge that.
You got to gauge that. And you're asking people to pay all this money. And especially that kid who did all that talking. And he's got heavy hands. You got to give him a shot.
Yeah, here comes an 80s baseball reference as it relates to Rolando Romero.
Hopefully he's better than my references. I messed him all up.
You
today.
really did. You're botching things left or right. Rolando Romero, if he was a baseball slugger, he's Steve Balboni. He's Pete Incaviglia. He's Rob Deere. In other words,
Dude, you went back.
He strikes out a lot, swings and misses a lot.
Also, Dave Kingman.
Hits about 210. Hits about 38 to 43 home runs, drives in 90-plus runs. Exactly. That's what he is. He's not going to have a high on-base percentage.
I like that kind of guy.
And here's what I thought about Tank Davis and what concerns me. And I do believe he's a really good fighter. Someone has pointed this out to me. If you're an elite fighter, you know what you do? You don't lose that many rounds. If you go back to the
a Rollie Romero, you don't.
Or to a Mario Barrios. Or to an Isaac Cruz. What the upper echelon elite fighters do is that they absolutely blank the good fighters.
Yes.
He doesn't really blank them. Like you said, he gets touched.
Even Leo Santa Cruz, a much smaller guy, was having some success in there. So you start thinking about potential fights if he chooses to stay in the lightweight division.
Yeah, he has no choice. Physically, look, that's another thing.
Well, that's what I'm saying,
It was
Kim.
not Romero's power. It was really his length and his reach. So I'm thinking to myself, boy, if you go back up to 140, ooh, that's going to be tough.
Oh, no, 140, forget about that. I'm telling you, even at 135, Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson, even at Cambosis, I think there are problems for him. I really do. I don't think he necessarily goes and steamrolls a division like the Tank he is.
But he is strong. He has the eraser.
He does
really
have the eraser, but if you get a guy, as you get older,
Yep.
they're not as chinny. The fire coming back is a lot more explosive. It's interesting to see which direction he's going to take.
And you're right. At the end of the day, Rollie Romero, what really was his downfall was his mechanics. He
Right.
stepped out over his feet, took a misstep, chin is up there. It wasn't even a hanging curveball. It was a T-ball.
Right.
He served it right up.
Yeah.
And a lot of other fighters who are much more technically and fundamentally sound, they're not going to leave that opening.
No, well, that's what I'm saying. He had some success. What happened is what I predicted was going to happen. I said it shouldn't go farther than 6, but he will have moments, and that's what happened. You should listen to me once in a while.
Yeah, right. You're taking credit for actually saying, I'll.
You thought he was going to wash him, and I told you it was interesting.
You
That's
saw
all
what
I said.
happened. I think he did wash him. I
No,
never
wash him as he went out there and blew him out in the
I
first
never
round.
felt
first
Tank-
2 rounds.
Did you ever-
I said he would have moments, and he would make it interesting.
Did you ever think Tank was in danger?
No. Hold on a second. I thought there was let me ask you this. Did you think he lost a couple rounds?
Yes.
Okay, then. That's a lot better than what a lot of people gave him credit for.
Okay, Mario, I will defer to you. You're right. It wasn't Tyson Spinks. Okay.
That's
Now,
what you said it
moving
was gonna be.
moving
It's true.
forward, I guess Davis and Mayweather Promotions and Leonard Ellerby have kissed and made up. They're back to wearing each other's Letterman jacket and class rings. You know what's interesting? Floyd Mayweather didn't show up. Huh.
What was the reasoning? Do you know? I was going to ask you about
Quote,
that.
unquote, he had personal matters. You're the biggest star in your stable fights, and you don't show up.
Well, we don't know what those personal matters. Maybe it was a health issue. Maybe something with the family. We don't know, so I'm not going to knock him for it. Here's the thing, though. The thing about him staying with Mayweather, doesn't that sort of throw a monkey wrench in a lot of potential fights
It's
now?
a safe cocoon. He stays under that umbrella, and the fights that you mentioned, historically, they probably will not happen. Now, on the flip side, I want to give Mayweather Promotions credit. They set a gate record in terms of attendance at the Barclays Center.
The kid can draw.
And he draws in Atlanta. He draws in L.A. He draws in New York. There's not a lot of American fighters that can do that. He's absolutely a draw. He's a bona fide attraction. Mayweather Promotions must get credit for it. Pay-per-view-wise, again, they're going to probably come out with an inflated number. But there comes a point, you're right, we want to see a better dance partner.
Absolutely.
What's next? Like, even an Isaac Cruz rematch is kind of an eh.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, you got it. Well, isn't the whole point to fight for titles? Isn't that
They'll tell you it's to fight for money.
Doesn't the money come with the titles?
Yes.
Though? That they kind of go
Or
hand
the
in
bigger
hand.
names.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They kind of go hand in hand. So at some point, you can only go flatline for so long. You gotta take a shot. So look, Tank, I think, did what we thought he was going to do, and like I said, I thought it was going to be interesting. But now, looking into the future, if it's not any of the names that you just mentioned, whether it's a rematch with Cruz or someone else, who would you like to see him go up against?
Well, the names that you mentioned. And look, in Ryan Garcia, look,
the 20K I got on Rollies, he got on Tank. Yeah. Okay. Bro, don't play with me. I'll pay you shit tomorrow. Tomorrow.
look, his logo.
Oh, that's right. He
Okay,
showed
hold
up
on.
that
Time
day,
out.
too.
A nice tuxedo, by the way, the Ryan Garcia wore. There's more news on him later. But his logo.
I don't know why the tuxedo, by the way. My guy looked like a valet.
Okay, well,
I don't know why. I
give
don't know
him
why.
$5, they'll
He's
bring
handsome,
along your
kid.
Mercedes. But Ryan Garcia, in all fairness, his logo should be that blue cap emoji. It's all cap with him. He knows
Look
these.
at you with the modern reference.
Thank you.
Look
Thank
at you.
you.
You
Well,
went
I'm on
old
Twitter
school.
all
Now
the
you
time.
want the modern
Yeah, but I'm
reference over
just
here.
like, he knows that they are not simpatico between Golden Boy and Mayweather and PBC.
Did he pay that $20,000 to Errol Spence?
Oh my God! Look, first of all, Ryan, when you're betting
not
on
gonna
a
make-
12-1 underdog, Get odds. Get some odds. You'd make a terrible bookmaker.
I did see on Instagram Live yesterday. He was on Instagram Live with his brother, and his brother asked him if he paid the money, and he's like, "I can't wire it on Memorial Day."
Why?
Oh, really?
Out of respect.
Yeah.
For our fallen soldiers.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Moving forward. Speaking of the lightweight division, we go down under Saturday, Marvel Stadium, Melbourne, Australia, on regular ESPN for all the marbles at lightweight. It's undisputed now. George Kambosos takes on Devin Haney. Mario, let's be realistic. Is Devin Haney already down 2-0 in rounds before the first bell even sounds?
Look, first of all, I want to point out that we just came off a pay-per-view event where it was 12-1 odds. Now, for free on ESPN, we are getting a hell of a matchup with Devin Haney and Cambosas. It's sort of like it's awesome. You got to this is a perfect example of where you're gonna millions more are gonna be able to see it. I think the star level is going to raise for both of the fighters, assuming it's a pretty good performance. But this is all what's great about boxing, what's happening this Saturday. I think Cambosas is riding on a high, both on confidence on the heels of Teofimo. My guy stays in the gym. He is looking as sharp as ever. I think Haney, who is big for his weight class and obviously is very talented, fundamentally sound, he's looked chinny at times, so who knows if Cambosas will be even more aggressive because of that. But I can't help but think of the Horn-Pacquiao fight where Pacquiao, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Cambosas, but where Pacquiao clearly won that fight, did enough to win that fight, and I thought he got jobbed with Horn. Will we see something like that again in another close fight? I don't know, but history has shown that it doesn't look good for Haney as far as having that even playing field. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope they can't deny him if it's something as stark of a contrast as like Bivol and Canelo. They couldn't deny him even though they tried.
No, they tried.
So we'll see, but I think this is a hell of a little matchup, which I want to get into after you give me your thoughts.
Here's what concerns me about Devin Haney. When he's not cutting down in weight, he's as good as any boxer in the world. But that weight cut is tough, and I was at both of his contests last year against Jorge Linares and Joseph Diaz. You know he's the only fighter to beat Jorge Linares that never put him on the canvas or stopped him?
Wow.
Also, Joseph Diaz, who I really think is a 26, 30-pounder, light hitting, popped him late, buzzed him.
I know.
That's alarming.
This is
alarming.
He's a very offensive fighter. He goes to the body a lot. He gives great angles. He works off that front foot. And you're right. Because he has a good work rate with that jab, he's really dangerous and sharp for about 7 to 8 rounds.
Yes.
Then around the 9th round, if you're hanging in there,
the wall.
I think you hits the wall and depleted because of the weight. Those punches start coming a little bit. And Cambosis showed me a lot of heart when Teo dropped
9th round, bang,
boom,
and he won the next 3 rounds.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. He showed me a lot of heart, and Teo, is a lot more heavy-handed than Haney. So he showed a lot of heart, a lot of grit. I don't think he's intimidated. I think he respects the fighter that's in front of him. For me, I think, and I was talking to our boy Joe Tessitore, he likes Haney in it just because he thinks he'll be the more active fighter. And I actually think that, I said, you know what, Joe? I said, I think that's going to be his detriment if he is the more active fighter because I think Cambosis will not be intimidated.
No, I think Cambosis is the more active fighter.
Well, I know, Joe, I was having...
Isn't he more of a volume
That's
puncher?
what I thought, but Joe was disagreeing, or we were debating about that. But I just think he showed me a lot of heart and grit, and I don't think he's going to be intimidated in those exchanges, and I think he's going to let those hands go. And I think he feels he can hurt Haney. I think it's going to be a very tactical fight, but I like Cambosis in this fight.
You are Tecate. Bold.
I do.
I like that.
I do.
I like that. One of
It's
the
fascinating.
things
It's fascinating
that is
matchup.
underrated about Cambosis that is never brought up, he's got above average hand speed. If you go back to the Teofimo fight, when they exchange,
watch that dude on social media. That fool's fast.
I'm just telling you, he's not slow.
Oh, no, he's not slow.
I know there's a stereotype of every white athlete. They do it for free. They're gritty. They're scrappy.
Stupid.
They're coaches on the field. Cambosis is actually a pretty good athlete.
No, that white dude's fast.
Yes, he's got some
fast.
speed. Just say it's not deceptive. He's just fast.
Ryan Garcia's fast too.
Yes.
Well, he's Mexican, but still.
And there's a theory that goes back years that trainers have said when a fighter wins a championship or a big fight, psychologically they become 25% better and more confident.
Well, that's exactly what I just led with. I said with his confidence, I think he's going to go in there. He's going to be even more aggressive. He's going to let those hands fly. And I also think because of the crowd. Now, listen, the crowd sometimes can backfire, too.
Yeah.
You got the pressure of home, people hitting you up for tickets, the weight of the world. You feel like you have to do something spectacular to prove yourself. But he's a very mature guy from what I've seen. I like Cambosis. He's a very mature guy. And he was always, I was going to ask you about this, he was always very respectful of Haney, but then he started kind of talking a lot of smack to him. What went wrong? Are they promoting or did something happen?
Of course they are. But I guess he said that Haney was giving him intel on the turbulent marriage and personal life of Teofimo Lopez. And I'm thinking,
wait, before or after the fight?
Before, when they fought in December or November. And I said, George, everybody knew about Teofimo's personal life. This was not a guarded secret like the formula for Coca-Cola. Okay? So anyway, I think Cambosis is a live dog. I think the only bet to make here, because he's actually the underdog. Look, Haney is the more skilled guy. The chalk, the consensus is with Devin Haney. But I don't know if I wouldn't bet. If I had to bet $100.
What are the odds right now?
I think it's about 2.5, 3 to 1.
Who?
For Haney. I think Haney's the favorite.
Yeah,
Haney
no.
is the favorite.
Wow, 2.5 to 1. Well, damn, that's a good bet to take then.
Yeah, although that
Cambosis.
fluctuates. But I'm just saying Cambosis is going to be a very, very
so what's your pick?
tough
I said
out.
Cambosis.
I'm going to go with Haney to hang on late. I think he's going to struggle late. I think he built enough of an early lead, but it's going to be a struggle. Also on this night from the Armory in Minneapolis, Minnesota, it's showtime. WBO, WBC junior featherweight title is on the line. Stefan the Scooter Fulton out of Philadelphia takes on Danny the Roman Empire. Mario, I'm going to say it right now. I think it's the best fight of the night. It's actually the fight I'm looking forward to, even the stuff going on down under.
That is a great weekend of fights. You know, last weekend was the first time that UFC has not had a fight card, especially on holiday, in a long time. I was like freaking out. It was weird. Thank goodness the Tank. What do people do on their nights when they're in fights? It's the weirdest thing. It's the weirdest thing. Yeah. So thank goodness the Tank fight was going on. But this weekend, it's like we
Boxing Palooza 2021.
Because you're right, great matchups, competitive fights, free. That's the thing. It's better impact for the fighters, the health of the sport. Awesome.
You know, when you also it's 2022.
Yeah, you're right. You know, you're right about that. I keep
what did
writing.
He say?
He said 21.
Yeah, my checks keep coming back to me saying, "Hey,
you want to go back to the pandemic player?"
Yeah, you're right. If you look at Stefan Fulton, his last fight with Brandon Figueroa, look, that's a big guy with a lot of activity. I thought he eked it out, but he got touched more than I thought he would. Everyone thinks he's slick. I actually think he's just fast, athletic, and tough. Slick means the ability to stand right in front of a guy or be in the pocket and slip, slide, roll, and be evasive. I don't think he's that evasive. Now, Danny Roman's not nearly the size. He's not the physical, imposing physical figure that Figueroa is. But what have I called him before? The line drive hitter. He just cuts you up with shots from the mid-range. Everyone is picking Fulton. I think Danny Roman is another live dog because, quite frankly, he's running out of chances, but he's got to understand you are the B-side here. They're not happy with the circumstances of how long they've been had to wait. He has not fought since May 15th, 2021, but Danny Roman will, in my view, if Fulton wins this fight, this will be the best professional victory he will have had in 21 pro fights. This is a true litmus test for the Scooter. I cannot wait to watch it. And Danny Roman has a chance because he's always said, I want that rematch back with MJ Akhmadaliev. You win those other two bouts, and Akhmadaliev defeats Ronnie Rios later in June. It's setting up perfectly. Also on this card, this is a fighter that we like. He's only 6-0, but David Morrell takes on Calvin Henderson. I'm going to say it again.
That kid had heavy hands.
Morrell, to me, in terms of risk versus reward, it's the worst guy for David Benavidez. I think he's that talented. And right now, I'm not messing with any guy that's 7-0 that's a talented Cuban, deep amateur background. Yeah. He's southpaw, and as you could say, he can bang.
That fight doesn't happen. That's not anything on the radar.
Does not make sense. All right, moving on to news and notes. A lot of things going on in the world of boxing. Let's go through some of this. Anthony Joshua, who will be fighting Alexander Usyk later this summer in Saudi Arabia in their rematch, will now be trained by Robert Garcia, by the way, that he's actually in Riverside. And it was announced earlier this week, Ryan Garcia will take on Javier Fortuna July 16th at the still Crypto Staples Center in L.A.
You know, I like that. I didn't see that coming, but I like the matchup with AJ and Robert Garcia. I wish they had a couple fights before jumping into Usyk. What does AJ need to do? Be more offensive. What is Garcia great at? Getting his fighters to be more offensive and to bang it out in there. Eddie Hearn seems to think, and he went on record saying that he doesn't see Usyk lasting 6 rounds on this next one. If Garcia can get AJ somehow to channel his
Corazon.
Yes, corazon, and let his hands go and be aggressive, dude, that's a big, strong dude that if he's throwing combos is going to be hard to reckon with. And I don't care, even if you're as slick as Usyk, I still think Usyk's got all the momentum and is highly motivated for this fight. But I'm not mad at that pairing. Are you?
I actually like the fact that Robert is getting him at his home gym, the Robert Garcia Boxing Academy. I'm going to try to go out there later this week.
It's nice he crossed the pond.
Because this is a fighter now saying, I'm making a commitment to you.
Yeah.
I'm not making you come out 8,000 miles. I'm not going to be comfortable. Because in many respects, for Anthony Joshua, because if you've ever been at the RGBA, it's kind of an old school Mexican boxing gym. It's kind of dirty. Not dirty, but it's grimy. It's got a certain feel to it. There's really good sparring.
Oh, yeah.
And it kind of reminds me of when Rocky Balboa was taken to Apollo Creed's original gym in L.A.
It was
which,
all shadowy.
By the way, no gym ever really looks like that. But there's like a feel.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. Because I think
That's what he says. There is no tomorrow.
There
Rock.
is no tomorrow.
There is no tomorrow.
Yeah, kept that going. So the issue with Joshua, in my view, is up here.
Exactly.
Psychologically. And because
Dude, and if he's hanging out with a bunch of tough-ass Mexican dudes that like to throw right there, hopefully that gets a little bit, you know what I mean? It rubs off on him a little bit. I think Eddie Hearn is very smart to pair them up.
Well, look, Anthony Joshua, about 4 or 5 months ago, went on this world tour where he spent a week or two with every known trainer in America. Then it turned out he was going to go back to the assistant of his old trainer. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Robert Garcia's training him. I like this. It's a great opportunity for Robert Garcia, who's one of the world-class trainers in the sport.
Yep.
Mario, Ryan Garcia, is Javier Fortuna, a guy he was supposed to fight last year before he pulled out. Is this really a step forward?
Well, it's a step, and that's all we can ask for right now. And the kid can fight. Javier Fortuna is not a shabby opponent at all. He can fight, and I think on the heels of To Go, and remember Ryan's been out for about a year, I think Fortuna's a step up from that, but not too dangerous of a one. I don't have a problem with Fortuna if the next fight, let's say, is in September, and it's a higher caliber opponent, assuming he gets past him. So I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, keep this in mind. Javier Fortuna last summer at the soccer stadium that you've been to a few times ended up fighting Joseph Diaz and lost a pretty clear-cut 12-round decision. I guess it's okay. Look, this fight's going to do well commercially. Hopefully, Golden Boy will be able to stack this undercard. And for Ryan, look, do I think it's a step? Yes, but again, he needs to stop grandstanding with all this talk of Tank Davis. There's just no indication that both
been
sides,
like a couple years
at
now,
least,
too.
yeah. Mario, this is a fight that I've said that's on my Mount Rushmore of want fights for 2022. And you know what? There's no date, but it's been formally announced. The ladies' night continues. Michaela Mayer will be taking on Alicia Baumgardner. Top Rank announced it sometime in the late summer, early fall. Sign me up.
Okay.
I love the back and forth thing on Twitter that they are going to, I think it's going to be a hell of a fight.
Listen, this is the most exciting it's been that I can recall in the ladies division of the sport. So it's an exciting time for them. Between Serrano and these matchups, and even your girl Clarissa Shields, she likes
Savannah Marshall.
Yes, exactly. So this has been an exciting time. So hopefully they'll be able to capitalize on this.
And one last thing, September 17th, it was announced by Matchroom and DAZN, the Trilogy: Gennady Golovkin, Canelo Alvarez.
I love that fight. That is a perfect fight on the heels of the Bivol fight for Canelo. It's, of course, at 168, big Mexican Independence Day weekend. I like that Gennady's going to get another big payday. Look, it's not the Triple G when he fought him the first time around, but I still think it's a dangerous Triple G. I think it's a Triple G that gets touched a lot more. But look, anytime we see fighters go up and then go back down,
Yeah, immediately.
You know, it gets kind of interesting.
A cut is a cut.
A cut is a cut. Now, Triple G is not stylistically similar to Bivol, but he does have that telephone pole lightning rod jab that's very educated. He's great with his timing, measures his distance well. Will we see the old Triple G that likes to go to the body as much? I don't know. But I think the rest has done him well. I think 68, he'll feel even better.
Yes.
He'll be strong. I actually think, obviously, you have to favor Canelo in it just because he's a younger man. But I think it's interesting. Much more interesting. I don't mean interesting like Rollie Romero, Tank Davis interesting. I think it's much more competitive. Do you disagree?
No, I'm with you. I've said that last year. People thought I was nuts. And here's another factor and why I like B-Ball to really give him hell. He is not in awe of Canelo. I have felt for a while that every guy post-2018 that matched up with Alvarez, they were in awe either of the fighter or the moment. B-Ball wasn't. Golovkin won't be.
Well, I think Golovkin knows he beat him the first time.
Yeah,
and the second time was very close, and I don't have a problem that if it went to Canelo's way that way. So, you know what I mean? He's been there. He knows. Once you've gone 24 rounds with someone.
You know someone well.
You know someone real well. You know what you're getting.
All right, when we come back on the 3 knockdown rule on Triller, we wrap it up with Ask Mario and Final Flurries. And we're back on the 3 knockdown rule on Triller. Let's go to the Ask Mario segment of this fine program. Here's one from our old friend, the only Sanch. Ask that Torta Kingpin, Mario Lopez Viva. Should Bam Rodriguez, Jesse Rodriguez, beat Secret-Setso Rungvisai next month and then beat Chocolatito too? Has there ever been a 3-fight run you can remember like that for a young fighter? Would he punch his Hall of Fame ticket on that type of run?
First of all, I love me some Bam. So that's great.
Fighter.
And the fact that if he were to do that little run, look, it's a little early to say Hall of Fame, but he's definitely on his way.
He'd be on the pound-for-pound list.
He's on the pound-for-pound list 100%. And if he keeps that up, but let's just let's just hope he can those fights come to fruition.
Yeah, well, one of them will. Remember, June 25th, in his hometown of San Antonio, he is fighting Secret-Setso Rungvisai.
That's a tough fight.
Okay,
that's a heavy-handed guy. That's a tough fight.
So what do coaches always say? One game at a time.
Take it one at a time.
Here's one from Adam Logan. With the return of the monster, Nino Inoue, who will be fighting next Tuesday morning, next week. Realistically, how many more weight classes do you think Inoue can go up and still carry that terrifying KO power? Mario, he was at 108, 112, and then he skipped 115. Now he's at 118.
Listen, not everyone is Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao is one of those great fighters that comes along every 10, 15 years. He happens to have, to me, one of the most impressive blends of speed and power in both hands. Inoue's power is on another level, too. I've never seen someone gather so much torque. It's great. But I don't know if he doesn't have the speed of like a Pacquiao.
Oh, I disagree.
No.
He's not the volume puncher. I think he can snap off punches.
But the thing about Pacquiao is it's not just hand speed. I'm talking foot speed. He closes that distance. Look at Pacquiao when he was young. He would be like 7 feet away from you and he'd feint and then he'd close that distance.
Well, he was frenetic. There's no doubt.
That's what I'm saying. No one's like that. So, and he is fast, but with that said, what was his last fight at? 118?
118, and he's going to fight Nonito Donaire, who's the other most dangerous bantamweight,
right.
And I still think it's a tough fight.
Yeah.
Donaire, look.
That says a lot about Donaire. I think maybe he can go up another
22.
Yeah, 22. I think he'd be competitive 26. I don't know if the power will still be there because that's asking a lot.
You look at Inoue. I actually think fundamentally he's more sound, but he's not as athletically dynamic as a Pacquiao. But keep this in mind about Donaire. Since losing that fight of the year, I believe it was in 2019 in the World Boxing Super Series, he has wrecked 2 undefeated guys. I mean, he beat Norbine Obuale, and then he just wrecked Raymar Caballo, and he was like Willow. He turned back the clock.
One
he was
of the
getting
greatest
younger.
rejuvenations.
Well, not Willow, more like Ponce de Leon. He found the fountain of youth.
Are we talking about Willow the movie?
Yeah, the movie.
With the midget?
Yeah, the midget, but everyone got older.
Dude,
but anyway.
I don't feel so bad about my bad references early on.
The issue is, if you look at Nonito Donaire's record below at 118 or below, he's basically an undefeated fighter. He had one 5-round loss early in his career, and then the Inoue fight. I'm just telling you, this is a guy, if he never would have moved up to 22 or beyond, we're talking about a guy who'd maybe have 2 losses. That's how impressive he is at that weight class. One of the all-time greats, already a Hall of Famer. Here's a question from Joel. What's your favorite De La Hoya fight? It's an interesting question.
My personal favorite? Not necessarily the one that was the most impactful. My favorite? I really like the Ike Corte fight.
So did I. Broke my heart to say that. I thought he beat Corte. I love Corte, but I thought he beat him. 114, 113.
Yes,
but the last knockdown, he swung it.
He dropped. He got dropped. He dropped Corte. He showed a lot of heart, Oscar. The thing about Oscar is that he fought with a lot of like, for such a happy guy, he was angry in that ring. He was mean in that ring, and he was a great fenisher. And that was a heavy-handed dude. And that jab, remember how strong that jab was that Corte had? That was one of my favorites when he was at his peak. I mean, he had so many, but that was probably one of my favorites.
The first Mosley fight I loved because it was.
Do you think he did enough to win?
I thought Mosley won the first fight. Yes, clearly.
Which one was the closer one?
The second one was at the MGM Grand, but the first one was at the Staples Center. It was the first big boxing event, and it was in between one of the Lakers-Pacers games. So it was a big moment for LA sports.
Yeah, there was a lot of people there.
The most impressive De La Hoya that I saw, where I said, ooh, this kid's pretty special, the way he blew out Rafa Ruelas.
Oh man,
the way
that
he
little run.
exploded.
No, I was at that fight, second round.
Yeah,
the way he was, and when he did Ruelas and Chicanito Hernandez, back, and he broke his nose in like 12 places. It lit like glass. It shattered. Dude, at lightweight, Oscar was bad.
Yes, he was, and I've always said if he just would have stayed with the professor Jesus Rivero, I don't know who beat him for a while.
Remind me to tell you about some stuff with that.
That seems to be off the record.
No,
yeah,
I'll tell you off the record. You're gonna like.
And here's one from Derek Batista, and you alluded to this before, earlier in this fine program, Mario. Mr. Batista asked, "Am I crazy to think Shakur Stevenson outboxes Tank 9 rounds to 3? Tank seems too small for the tall and slick southpaw."
That's exactly what I said earlier. You're exactly right, Mr. Batista. I think Shakur. Talk about swimming without getting wet. That's a slick boxer.
Yes.
And he's got some pop. And I just think he's an overall more complete fighter. Maybe he's not as explosive as Tank, but just that kid's special.
I've talked to trainers, and I said, who's the one guy that's going to be untouchable for the next decade? And they say the most dynamic talent is Boots. The soundest guy is Shakur. Now, Shakur was at the fight at the Barclays Center on Saturday, and I guess him and Tank took a picture. Here's one thing that stood out. Shakur is significantly taller than Tank. Oh boy. I'm just telling you, that already looks like a tough matchup. He don't
want to part it. I told you that when we started the show.
Yeah, and with Shakur, I don't know what's going on because Bob is already throwing water saying, nobody knows these other belt holders at 130. We're not overpaying. I'm like, oh, so then what? I guess Shakur's going to come back in September. I hope that Tank and Shakur is not another version of Sides of the Street. I hate that.
I know. I hope
it delayed Crawford Spence by at least 3-4 years. Moving on to final flurries. Mario, if we were Siskel and Ebert, we'd give 2 thumbs up to Top Gun Maverick. What a movie.
First of all, the last time you went to the movie, I just want to point it out, was with me. Every time I go to the movies with me, we saw the NWA Straight Outta Compton.
No, we didn't see that.
Yeah, we did.
No,
I have a picture, me, you, and Stearns. We saw that,
We went to a Star Wars, and then we saw. Oh, you're so stupid.
I never saw that. Yes, you did.
I never
we
saw
the NWA one. And
NWA?
Then we saw
No Whites Allowed?
Yeah, no, Straight Outta Compton.
No Whites Allowed? You saw Creed?
And then we saw Creed. And then
The
we saw
second
Creed.
one.
The second
not
one.
the band.
Yeah.
No, not the band. Not the band. We saw that, and then we saw Top Gun.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed Top Gun.
Yes.
And the reason I think it's such a big success, well, for a few reasons. First of all, Tom Cruise is like the last quintessential true movie star.
A-lister.
My guy looks amazing. He uses Adjust for Men just like I do. There was not his black wig was black. He was coming in looking like Wayne Newton. It was so black, but he looks great. Whatever he's doing to himself, he looks great. He's almost 60, but he knows how to make a movie. And I think for a few reasons this movie's successful. Number one, they put a lot of money into it. It's a big budget popcorn fare, right? It's not a Marvel movie. You can only take so many of those comic book fares. It's so patriotic, pro-America. I think people want a reason to celebrate America. And it was a lot of fun, obviously beautifully shot. Miles Teller does a good job. He looks just like Goose. And what I liked about it, too, is there was a look. You didn't have to see the first one to enjoy it, but if you did, you really enjoyed it. Because it was almost the exact same movie for a long time. It opens with Kenny Loggins in Danger Zone. Tom Cruise on the motorcycle. It's the exact same shot. He's even saying, "Talk to me, Goose." There's references. I'm not giving anything away, by the way, if you haven't seen it. So there was so many references, and when they're at the bar, and and it just, you're essentially watching the same movie till probably the last 30% of the film, and then it turns into something else, which is great. But not only shout out to Tom Cruise, but Jennifer Connelly. She's 51 years old. She looks amazing. She looks great. That's an example of someone who's aged really well.
Yeah,
gracefully.
only thing that was missing was Berlin, Take My Breath Away.
Well, they had Lady Gaga's song right there. It wasn't
Berlin.
Well, that's the thing. That's the one thing that was different, though. In the
Yeah.
original, there was a lot more romance involved. Remember, he had love scenes and stuff. This one, they kept it very surface level. They didn't go there.
Yeah, this I don't want to give away any spoilers, but it was very well cast. And when Goose, who plays the son, the Rooster, plays the son of Goose.
Well, not to interrupt you, but all their names, all the pilots, he has Maverick, and then I shout out to Val Kilmer. I'm glad Iceman was there, and he's got throat cancer, and he looked pretty good considering.
Yes.
You know, but why they got the one Asian dude? Why they name him Yale?
Yale. Couldn't
cold as ice. And they got one Latin dude right there, one Mexican dude right there. They named him what was homeboy's name? It was not. They should have named him like
Fanboy.
Fanboy. They named him Fanboy. Why did they give him a cool name like Matador or
Vato,
Diablo or
Homie.
Vato Loco something? You know what I mean? They gave him a whack ass name, and they gave the Asian dude a whack ass
The
name.
Asian guy should have been named like Suzuki or Bad Driver, but it kind of it was a little bit Operation Diversity. Here's what I did like. Like you said, they didn't woke it up. It wasn't this female with purple hair leading the charge. It actually looked like the military. And by the way, they actually paid homage in their own way to the beach volleyball scene. And I want to say that the naval pilot strength and conditioning coach is doing a hell of a job because they all look like Division I athletes. Also, I love to see it, Lawrence from Insecure, he got a role. He was one of the pilots. So it's good to see him diversify that. Look.
He was a coyote.
Right. It wasn't Citizen Kane. No, but was it a movie that you could have fun with and enjoy?
It was a fun summer blockbuster, yes.
Here's a complaint
That's not a comic book movie.
Here's
exactly.
a complaint that I have.
By the way, hold on. I know where you're going to go with this. Tell me if I'm wrong. We got there. The movie was at 5:30.
No, it wasn't.
Hold on a second.
No,
it was scheduled for 5:30. Yes, we're old, so we wanted to go at 5:30. We got there at 5:30, half hour for the previews right there. What? We saw like a half hour worth of previews, and all those movies look whack, by the way. The only one that looked good was Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible. Tom Cruise is the only one making great movies to go to the theater for. But, dude, I'm not, and now we could buy, I bought the tickets, and Kim did get the popcorn. No, that was very nice. So I got the tickets.
And the Twizzlers.
And the Twizzlers, shout out. You can assign seating. Yeah. Now with assigned seating, you got to, if the movie's 5:30, we don't have to show up now. We know the movie's not going to start till like 5:50. You got to give yourself 20 minutes, which is great. Once you don't have to rush anymore. You got the assigned, that's the move, right?
Mario, as far as I'm concerned, I wrote about this on K9's Corner for Snack.com. When it comes to movie trailers and pay-per-view undercard fights, less is more. Let's just cut that in half.
You're exactly right.
I don't need six previews. I don't really go to movies. Let's just do 2 or 3 as it comes to pay-per-view cards now. Let's just have 2 fights.
Yeah.
I don't need 3.
You know what happened too? I got a big-ass thing of popcorn, big-ass thing of M&Ms, and some Twizzlers. I crushed them all by the time the movie started. So I had I had remnants by the time the movie. I was so upset.
Yeah, and I had a big Mr. God, I love Mr. Pibb at the movies.
You're disgusting.
I mean, and then my teeth are all rotted out. But yeah, but you're right though, because you're thinking about holding your urine, and you're like halfway because there's so many previews. You're like, God, I could have.
Dude, I was like another one, a half hour. I'm not exaggerating. It was awful.
It was pretty awful. Marty, what's going on with kids' sports? What's going on with your kids there?
No, I wanted to talk about this the last week because remember when we were kids. You'd go like football season, then you play baseball season,
then basketball,
season. Gone.
Everything specialized.
Everything and specialized at a young age. There's kids now, 6, 7 years old, 6 days a week, Kim.
Yeah, and they travel.
They travel everywhere. I could not believe it when I took my kid the last time to the Vegas tournament. And there was these stud kids. I'm like, these kids are at another level, though. I don't know if it's, and this was wrestling for him, right? I don't know if it's because the UFC has now exploded on the scene, and a lot of the champions are former wrestlers. So I think the dads are kind of putting it into it at a young age. But there's now camps and there's now kids for as young as my son, 8 years old. Dude, these kids are going all over the country and they're going. So I met a kid at the beach when we were at the beach there. He was 14. He was just about to turn 15. He lives in La Crescenta. He's going to a school in Bellflower, okay, which is not close. Because of the certain wrestling program and the coach right there. I'm like, really? I go, you're trying it? And the parents are getting them up and drive them. Right now in the summer, they got practice from 7 to 10. When it's a school year, 4 to 8. 4 hours. I'm like, can you believe that, bro?
Yes.
I was just shocked that at such a young age now, they're getting these kids and having them focus, because for fear of burnout, I was. But if you want to be competitive and you want to be successful, long gone are the days of these kids where you play multiple sports. That's as far as individual sports. So I'm speaking solely. So all your tennis players, golfers, swimmers, wrestlers, fighters. That's it, bro. All year round. I was just shocked because that was not the case when we were growing up.
Well, as it relates to wrestling, the UFC is a factor. We've talked about it, but also college has a real wrestling culture. You can go to a Penn State and Iowa State and get a free ride. So if you're good enough, you could save your parents hundreds of thousands of dollars on your education. That's a part of it. But this also relates to maybe not football, but although football now has a 7-on-7 thing where you don't tackle. But it relates to baseball. It's been going on for a while. Kids play all year round, even in the team sports. HBO Real Sports did a full-hour feature on it. The problem that you're having, though, a lot of these kids are getting repetitive motion injuries too early.
Right.
Kids are now getting Tommy John surgery at age 10 and 11.
No, they're not.
Yes, they
are.
are.
You serious?
Yes.
Well, yeah, because if you got a gun, you can't be a kid. That's a different motion. And then think about wrestling's a violent sport.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And boxing too. You see, dude, the Mayweathers, the De La Hoyas, they were boxing since they were 6 years old. And look, and they're successful for a reason. So you look at those cases, and you look at like a Floyd, you look at like an Oscar, and you're like, okay, that consumed them. That's why they're that good. So if you want to be that good, that's what you have to do.
It is, but I think
It's a trip though. I've never seen it. I always thought it was specialized. Now it's everywhere.
Everything is. No, there's camps
now. It's everywhere. I couldn't believe it.
You know,
the level of
IMG,
how good they are.
The IMG Academy in, I think, Bradenton, Florida, they used to just be about tennis with Nick Bollettieri. So they would take these young kids. Now it's every sport. And there are people that come from all across the world, from soccer, baseball, even high school football, to go to these camps. And you basically become a young, professional, groomed athletes. It's not the same. When I played baseball,
that's what they do. That's what they've been doing in the Soviet Union or the former Soviet Union in Russia for a long time. They give it one and boom. That's where Khabib came from. That's why he's so damn good. They took him from the Dagestani and some of those guys at the UFC, and that's it. Boom. They wrestled since they were like little kid, 6 days a week, all day long.
Right.
All the, you know what I mean?
That's how the Russian hockey power was built. And when I played baseball at Montebello High School, we had about 25 games at most. We had a summer league program. We played. It was called American Legion. And then if you wanted to get more cuts in, I ended up playing for the Montebello Brewers at Grant Ray Park. It wasn't all that serious, but if you wanted to play ball, you kind of had to do this. I actually wish I played more baseball because I think it's the one sport you have to play more than I did. I wish I was a little bit more of a student of the game in terms of how to play it. But if you actually told me, Steve, you're going to have games in October, November, December, and then you're going to travel, as much as I love baseball, I would have said, I'm not going to major leagues anyway. Therein
lies the tough line as a parent, because you don't want to burn them out. You don't want to burn them out, and you don't want them to resent you either. But do you want them to be good?
Yes.
At a certain level, you know what I mean? So it's it's a tough line.
My buddy Hugo, my best friend, graduated from Montebello High School. He has 2 daughters. I think they're 6, 7, or 8. They're very talented young athletes. Every available weekend now, I say, what are you doing? Even on the weekends where we watch fights together, he says, Steve, don't come till 4. I got a soccer tournament. And in fact, this last week, he was in San Diego.
They play soccer all year round?
Right. And then he also went to IMG to visit. So this thing is like, once you invest into a sport,
that's it.
Unless you're a superhuman athlete, you don't get to play multi-sports anymore.
You really don't. I mean, you can for fun, but if you want to be competitive and win, they got to focus. And it's crazy. It's long gone or our era.
The great thing about it is mediocre athlete we got to enjoy my childhood. All right, anyway, that's it for this week's edition.
Mediocre's being great.
Shut up, Lopez. That's it for this week's edition of the 3 Knockdown Rule. On behalf of Mario Lopez, Smoking Tim Frazier, Justin Buffalo Knuckles, and Tino on the edits. Goodbye, everybody.